Yeah, I voted against this when I was on the council. It's 192 pages long, and these people just flaunt their disgust for people like me and people like most people in Orem. And listen to this. They're talking about what has caused the problem in Orem. Why do we have this problem on State Street? The revitalization of the State Street corridor, which is it's 5.37 miles long, but the revitalization of the State Street corridor will not happen organically, which just means automatically private enterprise. The curious mix we have here in Orem of laissez-faire capitalism, pioneer frugality, and conservative limited government expectations have created the State Street that we have today. In other words, they're saying it's awful. It's awful. So then they say clearly, in order to create a better solution for our families and the families that will call Orem home in the future, we're going to need a different approach.
A different approach than the foundations of liberty and the pioneer frugalities. The pioneers.
What the pioneers gave us is awful and horrible, and look at the mess they made. That's what they're saying.
And so we've got to fix things and make us less free market.
Right.
Make us more communistic.
And when the mayor and the city council were discussing this, I had them turn to this page, and I read that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, this identifies me. And this is what you want to get rid of.
Zion, dear Zion, home of the free.
This Defending Utah presentation brought to you by our generous sponsors, Trust Plumbing, Higher Calling Firearms, Mini Zoo comes to you, American Appliance, Andersen Accounting, and The Editor Lady.
Defending Utah Radio, a true grassroots group for liberty. We don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. To find out how you can become a member, visit defendingutah.org.
Happy Saturday afternoon. This is Ben McClintock with my co-host, Enoch Moore. And we are with defendingutah.org, where we think right and wrong, not right and left. And we are here with Hans Andersen, who is running for mayor of Orem. You can check him out on his website, voteforhans.com. That's the number 4, Hans.com, voteforhans.com. And before we went to the break, I want you to reread that for us, Enoch, about how the Karl Marx in the Communist Manifesto said, how do they get a culture to change? How do they get people that think that they're one thing to get them to become communists? So read that right out of the Communist Manifesto for us, please.
Sure. So Karl Marx said, talking about when they have a strategy to move in and change a country from non-communist to communist, he would say this, that in the beginning of this strategy, the change cannot be effected except by means of despotic inroads on the rights of property and on the conditions of the bourgeois production, by means and measures, therefore, which appear economically insufficient at first, but which in the course of the movement outstrip themselves and necessitate further inroads upon the old social order, and are unavoidable as a means of entirely revolutionizing the mode of production.
So, just in layman's terms, in plain words, they have to do it one small step at a time. They can't just come in and say all of a sudden, hey, you guys are communists, you guys are this. It has to be done with one small change, and the change is so small that this is untenable, meaning it looks like it can't make any impact, and if you don't agree to that compromise or that change, you're the unreasonable person. But that small change leads to the next change. It not just leads to it, but it requires the next change until all of a sudden the whole social order is changed. And what's really interesting is you get into Orem's master plan, and they talk about needing to change the social order. They're blaming the foundations of Orem for the problems that they're facing right there in the master plan. They're saying what we have here, what we're based upon, what we're founded upon, is bad and has led to issues, and so we need to change that and become more communistic. But we need to give the government power to take away property rights, and so that we can fix these problems of, pioneer frugality and laissez-faire capitalism.
Yeah, I could read that
Please,
paragraph.
please read
if
the
you wanna
paragraph
hear it.
right out of the Orem master plan.
Yeah, I voted against this when I was on the council. It's 192 pages long, and these people just flaunt their disgust for people like me and people like most people in Orem. And listen to this. They're talking about what has caused the problem in Orem. Why do we have this problem on State Street? The revitalization of the State Street corridor, which is it's 5.37 miles long, but the revitalization of the State Street corridor will not happen organically, which just means automatically private enterprise. The curious mix we have here in Orem of laissez-faire capitalism, pioneer frugality, and conservative limited government expectations have created the State Street that we have today. In other words, they're saying it's awful. It's awful. So then they say clearly, in order to create a better solution for our families and the families that will call Orem home in the future, we're going to need a different approach.
A different approach than the foundations of liberty and the pioneer frugalities, the pioneers.
What the pioneers gave us is awful and horrible, and look at the mess they made. That's what they're saying.
And so we've got to fix things and make us less free market.
Right.
Make us more communistic.
And when the mayor and the city council were discussing this, I had them turn to this page, and I read that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, this identifies me. And this is what you want to get rid of. This is the very thing you want to get rid of. And so my opponent, he said, that offends me too.
Mm-hmm.
That offends me. So let's vote for the whole thing, but strike that one paragraph. So these people are identifying.
So they want to get
rid of. They
of
have contempt for what made Utah, made the United States.
Yeah.
Our strengths. They're saying this is what does not work, and we got to do something different. And so here's 192 pages.
Well, they kept
of their contempt,
and they just didn't want. They took out the part that told you why they were doing what they were doing.
Right.
So they still wanted to do away with our foundations. They just wanted to vote to take away why tell the people why we're doing it.
Right. The cause of the problem was pioneer frugality, limited government, and private enterprise.
And that's ridiculous.
And so well, anyway, here's one of the things that they were going to vote on July 11th, here just a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And here's a list of 48 types of businesses on State Street. Now, you read what Karl Marx said about these. At first, they seemed limited, not very much.
Yeah.
Let me read how they start by talking about here's why these 48 businesses are undesirable. The purpose of the master plan: prevent the development of uses that are inconsistent with the master plan. The following uses are prohibited in the district areas identified.
Well, I don't mean to stop you right there,
State Street,
because we need to get there. But so against the master plan,
right?
So if a business goes against this idea of free of capitalism, then that's going against the master plan.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Right.
Continue.
So, but anyway, it says even though everywhere else it may say that these businesses are permitted, they're not anymore. And so what they've done is they've said, okay, we want to prevent any more of these types of businesses being built anywhere on State Street. And there's 48 of them. Transitional treatment home, an ice cream and frozen dessert.
So if you wanted to open up an ice cream shop.
Well, if that's a manufacturer.
So there's a business that you want to open, and they don't like it, but you're like, hey, I need to have it on State Street because that's going to help my business succeed. Right. That's too bad.
Yeah.
You've been excluded.
Got
and they
tires and tubes. If we got several tire stores on State Street. Those are not undesirable. That's wholesale and retail trade. Electrical apparatuses and equipment, hardware, plumbing, building materials, home improvements. You go on down through here, gasoline stations, second-hand stores. There's a second-hand store down there, that's, where they get collections from, kind of like a Desert Industry store.
Yeah.
Well, that's not undesirable. Nursery plants. There's 18 check cashing stores on it. That's not undesirable for State Street. Pawn shops, funeral homes. We have a business down there called the Mending Shed, where people go get things fixed that they think are worth saving. Like I had a lamp I took down there one time. It was a nice lamp, and I didn't want to just throw it away. And so they helped me get that fixed. And they do all kinds of things. Well, small appliances, electrical, and machine repair. That's undesirable. landscaping services, churches. Anyway, there's 48
So
of them
churches
here
are undesirable
on State Street.
because those churches, they bring in a lot of the undesirable people that
Right.
they don't want.
Right.
Those darn pioneer heritage types.
That's those blasted Mormons.
How
They
many?
want to put a church on State Street.
Right.
How many LDS chapels are there on State Street, or churches in general? I'd be curious right now. And are they going to actually try to strong arm these
No.
churches to move? Or?
No, the churches are actually off of State Street. There's
Okay.
they were not built on it because that
If
was
there
the
was
old
a future
state
need,
highway.
they wouldn't be able to build.
Okay.
But they want to make what they're doing. All these businesses that they have declared undesirable. What they're saying is, if you are already there, you're grandfathered, and you can stay. But if you want to improve that business, you cannot do more than 15% improvement to it, because we want to run you out of here.
Right.
We do not want that business on State Street, and so they just arbitrarily say, we don't want you here. And therefore, you cannot get a building permit to improve your business more than 15%.
This is like real fascism,
Right.
not the
Not the fake
not
fascism
the
that
fake
we usually
fascism
see.
of it.
Yeah.
But it seems like a good way, a slow, like this thing, the small means and measures, to be able to eventually get rid of them, because if you can't improve your business, then it starts to get dilapidated, and they can condemn it, and then they can put in whatever they want.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. They actually tried to do this about 3 or 4 years ago when I was on the council with just 6 businesses. And I spoke up, and I said, I want to know who put this list together. And nobody would say who put it together. And so they said, well, then let's just not vote on it.
Did it come from the cities and towns
Yeah.
council? That's where it came
the Leagues
from.
of Cities and Towns.
Which
Agenda
is
21.
Agenda 21.
Well, that's where it starts. Yeah, they come up with, we want to clean up State Street, so they had like there was an animal hospital on State Street, or just off of State Street, and so they were going to declare them non-conforming.
Mhm.
There's a tattoo parlor they went after. There's a business that rents equipment up the north end of town. They said that's undesirable. So anyway,
So the
but I stopped them that time. I said, this is not just, it's not fair. These people have bought these businesses, they're building them, and so I ran them off. But there's nobody on the city council now that cares. Not a one of them.
And that's an Orem. So we're about to wrap up here. Almost the end of the hour already.
All right.
And we're speaking with Hans Andersen, and you can check him out at voteforhans.com. And he's running for the mayor of Orem. You can check out his videos there at voteforhans.com. And his wife also, Melody, is running for city council. So
She's good, too.
I hope so.
Man, she's
you
good.
endorse your wife.
You endorse
I
your wife.
endorse my wife, yes.
But what's interesting is, too, even if you're not there, you want to. This is essential. The enemy of liberty is working on getting anti-liberty people in different city councils and mayoral positions across the country. And so if you want to get liberty people in city councils, even if you're not in Orem, I hope you'll go to his website and donate, and so that he can help to counteract all of the anti-liberty people that are donating to the establishment there in Orem that are trying to get rid of capitalism, trying to get rid of the free market, trying to get rid of our pioneer foundations in Orem. So what are some final things you would like to share with our listeners, Hans?
Well,
1 minute.
Most of you are like me. You want nothing from government, and you want to be left alone by government. And unfortunately, our enemies, our opponents, do not want to be left alone. They want to go after you. They want your money. And as Taft Benson used to call it, legalized plunder.
Mm-hmm.
They go in and alter the laws to protect themselves, to hide what they're doing. And they get nice big cars, but a lot of their work, it's a lot easier to get the government to steal your money than it is for them to take their own gun and steal your money. And so they vote these people in like my opponents, and they offer them money. They offer them power.
They offer them other people's money. So,
Yeah.
again, this is Hans Andersen, who's running for mayor in Orem. VoteForHans.com. This has been Ben McClintock and Enoch Moore from Defending Utah. This Defending Utah presentation was brought to you by our generous sponsors, Truss Plumbing, 801-808-5470. Higher Calling Firearms, HigherCallingFirearms.com. Minizoo comes to you. Call them at 801-414-5279. An American Appliance. Reach them at 801-254-2566. Andersen Accounting, when you care enough to pay the very least, at andersenaccounting.com, as well as the editor lady. Reach her at 801-948-3667. Make sure and subscribe to Defending Utah Radio on iTunes, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and YouTube.